Alright, patch preview. Woo, right? Kappa. Okay, quickly go over this before I'm off. We're buffing Azir to distribute some of his power back into regular play capabilities through scaling power that Azir players hopefully will appreciate. PHREAK is Zarat. Nice. I'm happy PHREAK is Zarat. Lissandra hasn't really felt the same since her Q cooldown was nerfed in Season 9. Times have really changed since then, and her perma-priority wave clear aftershock taking days, and in the vein of making champions feel better to play, we're seeing if she can sustain having this cooldown again. Okay, Riot. First of all, Lissandra with aftershock, that was back in Season 9, okay? That was back in Season 9. That was 7 years ago. Second of all, Corruption Potion was also in the game at that point, and cookies were really strong on mid lane, right? So there were a lot of other factors. Also, Aftershock got changed to bonus resist, so since then no champion, even Galio doesn't use Aftershock, right? So it's like, I don't know, man. This can be the reasons we're using here, because this was 7 years ago. Olaf jungle. These changes are targeted at jungle. Yeah, we're gonna talk about this. Sunfire build cost 1000 gold. Okay, yeah, I talked about it yesterday. Sunfire has really bad build path, and I think it is good that they are looking at build path as a buff. Ranked, so blah blah blah. Wait, let's read this. We had about a week and a half now of autofill versus autofill matchmaking being live. We're seeing excellent results. In regions like Vietnam with high autofill rate, we're seeing autofill go from 25% of games to 75% of games. Huh? So it means higher autofill? In US, regular play was already good, 90% of time autofill versus autofill, but in high MMR we went from 30% to 85%. Oh, okay, I understand that. It's not higher autofill, it's if the matchmaking puts two autofills at the same role or something like that, right? So if your top laner is autofilled, then the enemy top laner will also most likely be autofilled. So this means that the matchmaking is doing much better job now. Okay. Apex LP resolving most of the issues. Alright, cool. Okay, there's a couple of changes here that really bother me. So first of all, Azir will get 20% AP ratio on Q, and W damage will go up, scaling via level mostly, right? So the and AP ratio. So we're having here 0 to 45 per level. I believe this is the lever, to 50 to 110. Sorry, no, I'm misreading it. Sorry, 50 to 110 is the same to from 0 to 45 to 0 to 72. So a 0W will get some free damage per level, yeah, okay, and then the AP ratio is also going to be up by basically 2.5%. Actually, no, 2%, right? Because 62.5 is rounded up, so it was 63 actually. So this is only a 2% AP ratio buff on 0W. Azir W, I keep messing it up. Yeah, damage buffs for Azir. I think Riot will long term, it seems like they're leaning towards making the champion squishy, but making him do a lot of damage. Problem with Azir, again, is that he has a god tier dash, he has way too much range as a champion, and his ultimate in pro play is way too powerful, where basically post level 6, even champions like Hui, who should in theory be good against Zara, Azir, the problem is that you are constantly under threat of getting shuffled. So, yeah. Zara, the rightful ruler of Shurima, we can ignore this because this is obviously a meme that PHREAK is Zarat because Riot kept nerfing Azir. This is obviously just like an April Fool's type of thing, and it's not going to happen, right? If these buffs went through, Zarat would be the most OP champion in the game. This would be probably like 5% of win rate or something, like ridiculous. So, Lissandra. Okay, I don't like the direction we're going on Lissandra here. So we're making Q cooldown go down by flat 1 second and armor go down by 0.7. So armor growth being down by 0.7 is more than 1% win rate nerf. This is ridiculous amounts of armor being nerfed, okay? Now Riot loves this, right? They keep using the armor growth level per level nerf on so many champions, especially mages. They're slowly undoing the durability update and slowly indirectly buffing assassins specifically by doing this all the time, and like ADCs and stuff like that, right? I just don't like this change. I get it, like, maybe for satisfaction, it's nice that Lissandra Q is like low CD, but is Lissandra Q like really... is this really what Lissandra needs? Because in my opinion, it's not. I think this is going to feel really great on level 5, 7, and 9, but once you hit like your first and second item and you get some haste into the build, it's going to not feel as impactful as you might think. However, this does make Road of Ages Lissandra be a lot better, right? Like Lissandra can now opt into low CDR builds a lot easier, right? So maybe Road of Ages is being pushed here a little bit. At the same time, Lissandra losing so much armor is like really worrying to me because I get it. Like Victor and Anivia losing armor, I get it. Victor is long range, and also has EHP via Q, and also has Moon Speed Steroid, right? Anivia also way longer range than Lissandra, and more utility than Lissandra. Okay, I get for those two champions, for example, losing armor per level. But Lissandra, a champ that historically is forced to buy Zonia all the time, a champion that once she goes in has a really hard time getting out because her E does not reset on kills or anything like that, right? And also insanely short range champion. I think this champion needs armor, man. This champion needs to be durable. This doesn't make sense for like just thematically as a champion being on the squishy side. It's like I hate these changes. I honestly think this could, you might as well, in some cases this is actually just a nerf to the champion straight up. Also, last thing I want to say about Lissandra, this severely removes viability of flexing her to top lane, because once upon a time we had a meta where Lissandra was a top laner, more so than a mid laner, right? Even the kit itself, you could argue that she makes more sense on top lane than mid lane because of the short ass ranges that she has, right? It's the same with Lilia, right? Like it's the same, not Lilia, Aurora. So, yeah, I just think like, I just hate these changes. Olaf, base attack speed up to 0.72. Q slow is going buff by 5% flat, also slows for 1 to 3 seconds, which is pretty much a buff, right, in the slow department, because you put points into Q first, especially in jungle Olaf, also probably top Olaf, right? And then E damage to self is going up by 10%. Okay, so there were some different changes on PBE. I actually think Riot like changed up, because on PBE there were changes where Olaf top would be getting massive buffs, and these type of changes are, I would say, a little bit more jungle skewed for sure, but there are also buffs to top lane, right? So it's like, yeah, I just think this is scary. I don't like how Riot is approaching Olaf changes either, because like, look, does this champion in this state on top lane really need a buff with this amount of win rate? Like, I'm not saying he's weak, I'm not saying he's OP, he's just well balanced, right? It's like, this champion does not need more power top lane. Why are we not just buffing the jungle clear speed? I'm really confused here. Skarner, Q cost down by 15, so it's gonna, like, they're trying to make Skarner top a little bit better, but I do think the champion will pretty much still stay mostly as a jungler. Q target max health damage up by 2%. I think this is like insanely absurd buff, because Skarner Q used to do 11% damage, and that was back then when Skarner was really OP. Like, percent damage increases are absurd, especially on tanks that do not buy any damage and they rely on percent damage to do damage, right? It's like Ornn, Skarner, this type of, like, I think this champion is going to be OP. That's just what I think. Attack speed ratio is up, level 1 attack speed is unchanged. So I thought this would be a very big buff, because Tryndamere is like very auto attack heavy, and this does indirectly buff like lethal tempo and other like attack speed items that you buy, or halo blades and stuff like that. However, I saw some math today. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but I assume it's accurate. And apparently, even when you have a lot of attack speed in late game, it's like barely any change. So apparently this buff is placebo. Ahri, Q base damage per hit down by 5, maximum Q base damage down by 10, because it hits twice. Okay. Quick thoughts on Ahri changes. I think this is absolutely the wrong way to nerf Ahri. Now, yes, Ahri Q is one of the highest damage spells in the game, for sure. It is very strong. It is absurdly strong spell, but I do think it's a good reason that this spell is strong, because it is a spell that has the most gameplay in our skit. What we should be doing is nerfing W, which is a completely no counterplay, low skill ability. We should be undoing that nerf that buff that we did a while ago. Now, what this does is it's going to make Ahri players not one-shot the wave at level 7 at certain breakpoints when they have enough AP, right? So this mostly nerfs the Blackfire build, because when you buy Blackfire Torch, you have Lost Chapter and Amplifying Tome in a lot of times. With Malignus build, you don't get the Blasting Wand gold. So on level 9, you're still going to one-shot the minion wave, and I do think Ahri will still be one of the best minions in the game. It will be probably less than 1% win rate loss here. Pyke is getting nerfed 6 less armor on a champion that cannot buy any HP. This is an absurd nerf to Pyke. Absurd durability nerf. Again, I'm not really sure why we're nerfing Pyke. I just don't feel like Pyke needs a nerf. I don't know. It's weird. Shen Q monster cap damage down by 20. Okay, Zahin W2 damage will go down by 10 and 20% bonus AD. So I guess that's like fine because W is not really shouldn't really be a spell where Zahin should be doing a lot of damage from. It's also not a spell that Zahin really relies on. W full damage also down, okay, and then E monster bonus damage down by 25. So I guess the big nerf here is just the E monster bonus damage, right? Like clear speed nerf to Zahin. If you do like the double camps or stuff, you won't be able to clear 230 or whatever the fuck he has anymore. Okay, we're going very light on Zahin, it looks like. Campunk Chainsword down by 100 gold. I thought they would go by 200 gold. 100 gold seems to be a little bit light on the buff side. I think the item will still be quite bad for the most part. Sunfire will have a ruby crystal added to build path. Good, can't complain. I think this is the right way to buff the item. Support item penalty. Pre 5 minute allowed kills goes from 7 to 24. Post 5 minute allowed kills goes from 4 per minute to 6 per minute. I'm trying to think like, I mean, it is overall a buff to all supports, mostly to range supports who use gold more and probably get more in last hit positions than melee supports do past a support item. You could argue that this is a Senna maybe buff, Senna support, right? Maybe, because she maybe wants sometimes to last hit instead of just letting the minion die. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, overall, I don't think it's gonna do a lot. I don't think any adopt any funnel strategy could come back, right? Because you could argue maybe there's some funnel strategy that comes. Nah, probably not. So yeah, overall, Cassiopeia seems to be pulled from the buff list for some reason, and Tryndamere got a placebo buff, and Lissandra is getting really weird changes, which I really don't like. Will be interesting to see how much win rate Azir will gain via these changes, because you know, it's just a matter of time till he becomes peak and ban in pro play again. Alright, that's it.